Welcome to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram's Immigration News Show. Today we ask, are F-1 dreams on the line?
We would like to thank attorney Chris M. Ingram and staff at the law offices of Chris M. Ingram for their hard work in preparing the research for this show, which draws on a wide variety of news sources from both sides of the aisle, providing a balanced view.
Attorney Ingram is also a vocal advocate for the rights and protection of immigration applicants, although our coverage is designed to be nonpartisan.
Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. We are also on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Reddit, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team.
You can also visit our website on www.breakthroughusa.com. We'd love to see you there.
Disclaimer. Please note that this presentation should not be intended as legal advice for your specific situation.
If you, a friend, or a family member would like a free consultation, you can visit our website at www.breakthroughusa.com and schedule an appointment. We'd love to hear from you and help you if we can.
We'd also like to point out that this presentation was created using AI hosts.
Okay, let's dive in.
Today we are embarking on a truly crucial deep dive.
We really are. We're focusing on this ever-evolving landscape where global talent meets U.S. policy.
Specifically, we're dissecting the current reality for international students and professionals in what we call the STEM fields. So, science, technology, engineering, and math.
And this isn't just a simple regulations update. We want you to understand the core mechanisms that now govern who stays, who gets to contribute, and how the U.S. really sustains its innovation engine.
The environment has definitely shifted. And dramatically so.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. For any F-1 student who's dreaming of post-graduation work, through OPT, or for companies that are relying on H-1B talent, the path is it's demonstrably more rigorous. And it's much less forgiving of errors than it was even a few years ago.
So fewer second chances.
Exactly. We're seeing this new, intense focus on what they call program integrity. And that's being driven by enhanced digital screening, centralized vetting, and maybe most importantly, in-person workplace oversight.
So our mission today, for you, the learner, is to give you the most accurate and thorough understanding of these changes. We really want to extract the high-impact takeaways that affect F-1 students and their employment pathways later on.
This is your shortcut.
Exactly. This is your shortcut to navigating this complex system successfully.
And the legal research our attorneys prepared for this gives us a really comprehensive structure. We're going to trace the entire path. We'll start with the deeply personal journey of the international student.
The human side of it.
The human side, yes. Then we'll move through the concrete operational challenges of increased workplace scrutiny. We're talking site visits. After that, we'll analyze the new centralized security infrastructure down in Atlanta.
And finally, we'll connect all of this, all these compliance measures, we'll tie them back to the fundamental economic necessity for this talent in the first place.
That holistic approach is so essential, isn't it?
It is. We can't just talk about policy documents in a vacuum. We have to ground this in, human ambition.
Let's start right there then. Let's start where the journey begins, with the student themselves.
Okay, so the F-1 visa, it's often just seen as a piece of paper, something that grants you educational access.
Right, a ticket in.
But as our team's research highlights, especially when you look at the memoir of Pratik Satpute, F-1, a student in the land of the free, it represents this staggering amount of emotional weight and financial commitment.
That book, it just captures the duality perfectly. On one hand, you have this immense excitement about getting access to world-class labs, world-class faculty.
It's the dream.
The dream. But it's paired with this equally immense and very quiet pressure to succeed. These students aren't just investing their own time, they're carrying the aspirations and very often the life savings of their entire families back home.
So the expectation isn't just to pass your classes.
Not at all. It's not merely to graduate. The expectation is to excel, to secure highly valued employment, and at the end of the day, to justify that profound sacrifice that their family made.
And that weight, it starts even before they get on the plane, doesn't it? Our legal team really emphasized just how complex that pre-departure phase is.
Oh, it's a huge hurdle. It requires assembling this exhaustive financial documentation. You have to prove you have the funds for the entire duration of your study program, not just the first year.
The whole thing, up front.
The whole thing. Then you have to navigate this labyrinthine academic application process. And after all that, you face that high-stakes visa interview.
That interview itself sounds like an exercise in pressure management.
It is. Your entire future trajectory, it all hinges on demonstrating non-immigrant intent, proving that financial solvency, and coherently articulating your academic and career goals.
And you had to do all of that in what? A 5-minute conversation.
Often, yes. A high-pressure, 5-minute exchange. Successfully navigating that is the first major psychological hurdle. The journey is already transformative before classes even begin.
And then the adaptation, it just accelerates dramatically once they arrive, especially inside a demanding U.S. STEM environment.
Pratikset Pute's time as a science student at UC Irvine, it's a perfect illustration of this transition.
So what exactly changes for them in terms of academic expectations? What's the biggest shock?
Well, the fundamental shift is away from rote learning, which, characterizes many traditional international education systems. It moves toward critical, hands-on, initiative-driven learning.
So less memorization, more creation.
Precisely. The U.S. STEM model demands independence. You are expected to define your own research questions, troubleshoot experimental failures on your own, and just move forward without constant hand-holding.
We're really talking about a move toward constant problem solving, right?
Yeah.
And our researchers said this often involves intense, practical group collaboration, which is something many students may not have been trained for previously.
Absolutely. Success really relies on active participation, on synthesizing diverse viewpoints, and having open dialogue with professors and lab partners.
And that can be a huge cultural leap.
A massive one. For students whose previous culture emphasized hierarchy or, deference to authority, developing the confidence to actively challenge ideas or ask clarifying questions or even just admit you're confused in front of a professor, it requires a huge cultural and communication adjustment.
So they're mastering their subject while simultaneously mastering a whole new professional communication style.
Yes. And beyond the labs, the cultural decoding is a constant drain on their mental resources.
It's not just the big things, is it?
No, it's the daily contrast that the research really touched upon. Everything from figuring out campus bureaucracy and understanding American slang to navigating social etiquette and even interpreting basic conversational styles.
I can only imagine.
Pratik's memoir details these moments perfectly. The humor often comes from these minor misunderstandings, but the underlying stress is very real. Imagine trying to process complex material on, say, quantum mechanics, while you're also trying to decipher why Americans shake hands differently.
Or what a specific social cue means when a professor is being casual.
Exactly. This constant dual processing, the academic and the cultural, it's exhausting.
And all of this is underpinned by that relentless financial pressure we talked about.
Right. International students face these extraordinarily high tuition and living costs, and at the same time, the F-1 visa imposes severe limitations on employment.
This is the critical constraint, isn't it? It's what distinguishes the F-1 experience.
It is. Students have to document sufficient funding up front, and while they're on the visa, their ability to earn money outside of very specific approved on-campus roles is minimal.
Which forces a heavy reliance on scholarships, family savings, or other external support.
And that financial structure creates that relentless dual pressure we discussed. Academic excellence isn't just a personal goal. It becomes a financial imperative that validates the family's entire investment.
I think the key insight here for you, our listener, is the type of person who emerges from this crucible. It's not a story of easy entry. It's one of profound personal growth.
Precisely. The core competency they develop isn't just technical knowledge, it's exceptional resilience.
The soft skills.
The F-1 journey forces them to master cross-cultural communication, time management under high-stakes conditions, and navigating ambiguity. These are skills that are incredibly valuable in today's multinational, complex STEM fields. They're essentially proving their grit before they even enter the workforce.
Our legal team really emphasized this growth trajectory. Attorney Chris Ingram notes, and I'm quoting here, "The F-1 path isn't defined by where you start. It's defined by who you become along the way."
That's a great way to put it.
Every challenge an international student overcomes becomes a foundation for the career, confidence, and contribution they will build next. It truly reframes all that difficulty as a kind of foundational training.
And that foundation is crucial because as soon as they transition from student life to professional life, via optional practical training or OPT, they face the next wave of challenges.
And this is where policy and enforcement measures intersect directly with their daily work.
Yes. This brings us to the intensification of workplace oversight.
The atmosphere around post-graduation employment OPT and H-1B, it's clearly hardened. Our researchers highlighted a definite shift in late 2025 where program integrity became less about checking boxes on forms and more about verifying reality on the ground.
Yes, the intensification of unannounced site visits targeting international employees on OPT, STEM OPT, and H-1B visas is probably the single biggest operational change in this space.
Feeling lost in a maze of visa types and paperwork? Don't know where to turn? We've got your back. With clear answers and real help, we'll guide you every step of the way. Let's navigate it together. Your journey starts today.
Hello, you must be Clara. Welcome to the law office of Chris M. Ingram.
Finally, I found a law firm that will help me achieve my American dream.
At this law firm, you are important to us. That's why we will be with you every step of the way. So join us at the office of Chris M. Ingram.
So USCIS is moving its oversight directly into the physical workspace.
Right into the labs, the offices, the server rooms. They want to ensure compliance is genuine.
What's driving this shift? Is it purely about fraud detection or is it something broader?
The primary driver is program integrity, which really encompasses both fraud prevention and ensuring legal compliance. They're looking to verify three main things.
Okay, what are they?
First, genuine employment. Is the job actually real? Second, alignment. Do the duties match the academic background and what was filed in the petition? And third, employer fulfillment. Is the employer holding up their end of the bargain on things like wages and supervision?
Let's focus on the STEM OPT student first. Maybe a recent master's graduate in, say, robotics or data science. What does a surprise site visit actually look like for them?
It's a highly detailed process. It often requires the student, their direct supervisor, and sometimes HR to all be present. The officer will typically request a walkthrough of the workspace.
And what are they asking the student?
They will ask the student to explain their job duties in granular detail. It's not enough to say, I work on AI.
They need specifics.
They need to link specific daily tasks, the coding languages they use, the data sets they analyze, the research methodology they employ, directly back to the curriculum of their degree.
That seems fine if the job is straightforward. But as we know, modern STEM roles are incredibly interdisciplinary.
Right.
A data analyst role might require knowledge of statistics, computer science, and maybe even domain-specific knowledge in bioengineering.
And that's the crux of the challenge. The student has to demonstrate coherence across all those multi-layered roles. And what's more, for STEM OPT specifically, the officer is laser-focused on the Form I-983.
The training plan.
The training plan. This form is absolutely central to program integrity, and the whole point of the visit is to verify that the supervision structure and the training objectives outlined in that I-983 are actually being followed in practice.
That I-983 seems like a common tripping point. What are the specific pitfalls that our legal team sees leading to discrepancies during these site visits?
Well, the biggest pitfall is treating the I-983 as a static document, something you file once and forget about.
Which it isn't.
It is a living document. It must be updated whenever there are what they call material changes.
And what counts as a material change?
Common issues that trigger suspicion include things like the student moving to a different work site. And that could be just a different floor in the same building. That needs an updated I-983.
Really? Even a different floor?
Yes, or a change in supervisor. Or, most frequently, a change in job duties that is not reflected in that training plan. If the officer asks the student what they're doing and the answer is drastically different from the I-983 filed months earlier, that lack of consistency is a major red flag.
Wow. That puts an immense burden on the student and the employer to maintain perfect, up-to-the-minute documentation compliance, even as job roles naturally evolve over time.
Exactly. And the scrutiny for H-1B workers is equally stringent, but it's centered on compliance with the labor condition application, or the LCA.
Okay, so for those who aren't familiar with the LCA, what is its critical function and what are officers verifying during an H-1B site visit?
The LCA is the document where the employer attests to specific working conditions. The critical verification points during a visit really focus on two things: money and location.
Money and location.
First, the officers verified a wage. The employer must be paying the H-1B worker at least the prevailing wage for that occupation in that geographic area, or the actual wage they pay to other similarly employed workers, whichever is higher.
And failing to match that is a big problem.
It's a critical compliance failure. Even a small margin can cause issues.
So the officer might just ask for payroll records right there on the spot.
They absolutely can, and they do. Second, they verify the location. They need confirmation that the employee is physically working at the location specified in the visa petition.
Which is a huge deal in the age of remote and hybrid work.
A huge deal. If the employee is primarily working from a state or city that's different from the location listed on the original petition, and no amendment like a new certified LCA for that new area has been filed, that is a severe discrepancy.
I have to imagine this level of enforcement has profoundly changed how U.S. technology companies and research institutions manage their international talent. They just can't afford procedural errors anymore.
They cannot. This increased activity has forced major organizational changes. Companies from global tech giants all the way down to smaller, cutting-edge startups are now investing heavily in internal compliance infrastructure.
What does that look like in practice?
It involves regular internal audits, ensuring that the job descriptions filed with USCIS perfectly mirror the job descriptions used internally, and running mandatory training sessions for HR and line managers on the specifics of I-983 and LCA obligations.
For a small startup that might only have one or two specialized international engineers, that sounds like a significant administrative overhead.
It is, and it's a non-negotiable cost of doing business now. Risk mitigation is paramount.
Because one mistake can jeopardize everything.
They understand that a single procedural error discovered during a surprise visit could jeopardize their ability to sponsor all international talent in the future. It could effectively cut them off from a crucial labor supply. This heightened oversight, in a way, is forcing professionalization across the entire ecosystem.
So the legal team's analysis suggests that this oversight, while difficult, ultimately strengthens the programs. It removes bad actors and protects the legitimate pathways.
That's the constructive interpretation, yes. As attorney Chris Ingram states, a well-run system protects everyone. When students and professionals stay prepared and employers uphold their responsibilities, integrity checks become opportunities to show that global STEM talent is not just welcome here, it is essential.
So by ensuring every participant is compliant, the overall system gains legitimacy, which protects the vast majority of ethical students and employers.
Exactly.
So if workplace integrity is being enforced on the ground, the next logical step to analyze is how the government is enforcing security and data integrity at the national centralized level.
Right. And this is a major structural shift confirmed by our researchers in late 2025. The establishment of the new Centralized Vetting Center in Atlanta by USCIS.
A centralized vetting center.
Yes. This represents the government's commitment to strengthening screening capacity through consolidation and coordination.
So how does the creation of this vetting center fundamentally change the review process for, say, a highly skilled individual, someone applying for an O-1A visa or an employment-based green card?
It changes the scope of the search. Previously, vetting was often decentralized, spread across different field offices with varying standards.
Right.
The Atlanta Vetting Center's mandate is to consolidate various screening functions, fraud detection, national security review, background checks, and that allows for much greater coordination across government databases. The expectation is that applicants are now being measured against a fully cross-referenced, digitized, government-wide history of themselves.
That implies they were pulling data from a lot more than just USCIS files. What specific data sources are likely being cross-referenced to get this comprehensive view?
Well, the coordination extends significantly beyond basic immigration applications. Our researchers suggest they are integrating data from the Department of State, which handles all the visa issuances and denials abroad.
Oh.
They're using DHS entry and exit records, and they're coordinating closely with intelligence agencies regarding sensitive fields. This lets them cross-reference academic affiliations, international collaborations, publication records, funding sources, even travel history with an unprecedented level of rigor.
Wow. So that need for consistency across all your records suddenly becomes critically important, not just from one visa filing to the next, but across your entire public and professional life.
Total consistency is paramount. Whether you're filing an F-1 extension, an H-1B, an O-1A, or a green card, every single piece of data, your academic CV, your LinkedIn profile, the list of publications you submit, it must all align perfectly.
And even small discrepancies can be a problem.
The smallest discrepancies. Things like varying job titles for the same position, slight misstatements about dates of employment, or omissions of minor research collaborations. Any of those can trigger an enhanced review by the vetting center.
What kind of applicant is most exposed to this enhanced rigor? Who should be most concerned?
Those in sensitive technology fields, what are often called critical technologies, are naturally under the most intense scrutiny.
So we're talking about advanced ships, quantum research.
Exactly. Advanced semiconductors, quantum computing, bioengineering, military-adjacent AI development, and specialized material science. Applicants in these fields must be prepared to provide clear, granular explanations of their specific research contributions and collaborations, especially if those collaborations involve foreign institutions.
So if I'm an AI researcher and I completed part of my PhD through a partnership with, say, a European lab, I need to make sure my green card application clearly outlines that collaboration and its non-sensitive nature.
Absolutely. Transparency and documentation are key. The Vetting Center isn't necessarily trying to stop legitimate international research. It's trying to ensure that collaboration doesn't pose a national security risk.
So you need the paper trail.
You need documentation showing when and why the collaboration occurred, who the key partners were, and how your specific role aligns with U.S. interests. The burden of proof is very high.
Rome, 20,000 spectators, one epic battle, two warriors, one destiny. But before they can fight for glory, they must face the real challenge, getting their visa approved.
If you want to enter, show me your visa.
They should have went to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram. They are very good.
Yes, I've heard the same. They handled my visa in no time.
They are not approved! They are not approved! They are not approved!
Off to the Lions pit!
Come with me, boys. It's dinner time.
Because even legends need the offices of Chris M. Ingram.
Are you looking for a visa? Why don't you get your free consultation on the Breakthrough website? We're with you every step of the way.
From the employer's perspective, this centralization must reinforce the need for internal alignment even further than the site visits do.
It does. Employers have to be meticulous. The job descriptions, worksite information, and organizational roles detailed in USCIS petitions must accurately reflect the on-the-ground reality. If an employer claims a position is non-sensitive, but the Vetting Center finds the employee is publishing papers in a sensitive field, that inconsistency creates a significant barrier and a potential denial.
So internal legal counsel has to be much more involved now.
Much more involved in the hiring and documentation process from the very beginning.
But I need to challenge this narrative for a moment. If this centralized unit is applying standards with greater coordination, doesn't that also run the risk of creating a single, massive point of failure? Or a huge processing bottleneck?
That is a legitimate concern, and it's the primary risk of centralization. A massive influx of applications or a system breakdown in the Vetting Center could, in theory, halt processing nationwide.
But there's an upside.
There is. The anticipated benefit, which our researchers highlighted, is the potential for greater uniformity in applying standards.
Explain what you mean by that, the uniformity benefit.
Historically, an application filed in California might be treated very differently in terms of how the evidence is interpreted than the exact same application filed in Vermont.
Right. Different offices, different standards.
A centralized unit, by establishing uniform procedures and training, theoretically reduces that unpredictability. For large companies that file hundreds of petitions a year, greater consistency, even if it comes with greater rigor, is often preferable to regional unpredictability.
So, provided the applicant is honest and meticulously prepared, the Vetting Center is really designed to support the system's integrity, which should ultimately benefit legitimate applicants.
Precisely. The legal team's analysis frames the purpose as being supportive. Attorney Chris Ingram points out that when USCIS strengthens its screening systems, it isn't trying to intimidate applicants. It's reinforcing the integrity of the pathways that scientists and engineers depend on.
And he adds, clear, honest documentation allows STEM immigrants to shine for the right reasons.
Exactly. It legitimizes the credentials of those who succeed and get through the system.
Okay, we've tracked the individual journey and the operational and policy challenges. Now let's zoom out. Why does the U.S. put itself and these applicants through this complex process? We need to connect these challenges back to the compelling fundamental economic need for global STEM talent.
The macro view is really the stabilizing truth beneath all this regulatory turbulence. As our research underscores, the core principle remains unshakable. The modern U.S. economy, specifically its capacity for cutting-edge innovation, depends fundamentally on international researchers, students, scientists, and engineers.
So without this global talent flow, key sectors just can't maintain their current pace.
They can't. And even with some of the cyclical layoffs we've seen in certain tech subsectors, the demand for highly specialized technical workers remains structurally very high. We're not talking about general employment here. We're talking about expertise that is scarce on a global scale.
And that acute demand is most visible in areas where there's a lot of national strategic investment, right?
Correct. Look at the semiconductor industry, which is absolutely central to U.S. economic and military security.
With the massive influx of CHIPS Act funding, we're seeing new fabrication plants scaling up rapidly across the country: Arizona, Texas, Ohio.
And what does that scaling necessitate immediately in terms of workforce? It necessitates thousands of highly specialized engineers and technicians who simply do not exist in the immediate domestic pipeline.
They can't be trained fast enough.
No. Workforce projections are consistent across the board. There are critical shortages in roles like fabrication engineering, lithography, process development, and advanced materials handling. These are deep, technical roles that require advanced degrees, often PhDs, earned at U.S. universities by international students who then transition via OPT and H-1B.
So immigration isn't just helpful here.
It's central to the success of a multi-billion-dollar industrial strategy.
And we see the same pressure in the life sciences and biotech fields, don't we?
Absolutely. Biotechnology and life sciences are experiencing massive growth, particularly in clinical research, genetic engineering, and bioinformatics. Research hubs like Boston and San Diego rely heavily on the continuous input of international talent.
And these are high-value, high-wage jobs that drive those regional ecosystems.
They are. The reliance on the H-1B, the O-1A, and ultimately employment-based green card pathways for this specific talent is absolute.
Okay, let's discuss the key economic factors our research team identified over the past 90 days that specifically color this environment. We touched on the first one earlier: compliance costs.
Right. The increased rigor from site visits and the vetting center scrutiny, it all translates directly into higher compliance costs for employers. This is most pronounced in highly regulated or defense-adjacent fields like aerospace or specialized material science,
where aligning immigration processes with national security expectations requires a substantial internal investment.
A huge investment in legal counsel, HR training, and updated documentation systems. This operational overhead is now just factored into the cost of hiring international talent.
The second factor is maybe the most concerning for U.S. competitiveness: global competition for this exact same talent pool.
This is so critical for you, our listener, to understand. The U.S. is not the only destination for the world's best engineers and scientists anymore.
Not by a long shot.
Nations like Canada, the U.K., and Australia are aggressively courting this talent by offering streamlined, expedited visa options. Our legal team highlighted that U.S. employers frequently lose desirable candidates, those with scarce skills in AI or specialized engineering, simply because of the complexity and delays in the U.S. system.
Can you give us a concrete example of how Canada or the UK are making themselves more attractive?
Sure. Take Canada's Global Skills Strategy, or the UK's High Potential Individual, or HPI visa.
The HPI visa.
That visa, for example, is often available to graduates of top global universities, regardless of whether they have a job offer. It offers a quick pathway to stay and seek employment.
That's a huge advantage.
It is. Now contrast that with the U.S. H-1B lottery system, which is random, highly competitive, and subject to annual numerical caps. When a brilliant engineer can get certainty and speed somewhere else, the U.S. is often placed at a severe disadvantage. This leads to a tangible outflow of potential innovation.
So that procedural delay has measurable economic consequences. That innovation happens abroad instead of here.
Exactly. And the third key factor our attorneys highlighted relates to the measurable impact on regional ecosystems.
This is the localized benefit that national policy is trying to capture.
Yes. Our research shows that cities with high concentrations of R&D institutions and major research universities, we're talking Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Austin, Chicago, they experience measurable, direct economic growth tied to retaining their international graduates.
So these graduates aren't just employees?
No, they become entrepreneurs, researchers, and patent holders who fuel those local innovation hubs. Disrupting that F-1 to STEM OPT pipeline directly disrupts regional economic vitality.
And tying all of these sectors together is the relentless, almost exponential demand for specialists in advanced computing and AI.
This is the cutting edge where global leadership is really determined. The rapid evolution of generative AI, high-performance computing, and machine learning requires a massive number of specialists in distributed systems, model optimization, algorithmic safety, and complex data governance.
And where are those skills being developed?
The vast majority of these skills are developed at the graduate level in U.S. universities by international students. Industry leaders consistently recognize that maintaining open, secure, and clear immigration pathways is absolutely vital to sustaining U.S. global leadership in AI.
Which is now seen as the ultimate strategic asset.
It is.
So we're left with this system that's demanding unprecedented levels of compliance, consistency, and scrutiny, while at the same time, the country is facing an unprecedented economic and strategic need for the very talent it's regulating. It's a real tension point.
Exactly. The process is objectively more difficult. The Atlanta Vetting Center, the surprise site visits, the need for perfect I-983 documentation, but the value of the brilliance that these immigrants bring has never been higher.
And that perspective is what truly defines success in this environment. As attorney Chris Ingram emphasizes, every major breakthrough in science and technology comes from people who choose to show up, persist, and contribute.
Immigrant innovators are part of that story, he continues. No matter how complex the process feels, your work has value, and this country needs your brilliance.
That summarizes the fundamental truth so well. The policies create friction, but the foundational necessity of global talent for U.S. innovation remains the overarching economic reality.
It does.
Okay, let's synthesize these findings for the listener.
The core conclusion of this deep dive is really twofold. First, the pathways into the U.S. STEM workforce are demanding a whole new level of preparation and transparency from applicants.
Right, whether it's the emotional fortitude required during the F-1 visa process or the perfect documentation you need to withstand a surprise site visit.
Or the total consistency demanded by the new Centralized Vetting Center. The compliance bar has been fundamentally raised. There's just no way around it.
And second, that rigor is set against an undeniable economic imperative. Despite all the difficulties, the U.S. economy, specifically in strategic fields like AI, biotech, and semiconductors, cannot meet its strategic workforce needs without this global talent.
The demand for their expertise is stronger than ever, and that demand acts as a powerful counterbalance to all the procedural complexity.
So the required mindset for success in this shifting environment is one of extreme resilience, organizational clarity, and transparency.
Yes. The process itself tests the applicant's ability to navigate complexity, which is often a perfect prerequisite for the complex careers they're pursuing.
That brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider as you digest all this information.
The central tension in U.S. policy moving forward is going to be balancing these security and integrity measures, like the Atlanta Vetting Center, with the urgent practical need for talent.
Right.
We've seen the U.S. implement these operational changes to address integrity. The critical question for the next few years is this: how successfully can the U.S. sustain its global leadership in critical technologies if it fails to simplify or streamline pathways to permanent residency for necessary international talent?
Is rigor enough, or must simplicity eventually enter the equation to win the global talent war?
That's the question.
A truly critical question that will define the next decade of American competitiveness.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you gain a lot from this discussion. Please leave us a comment if you can.
Additionally, you can support our channel by sharing it with your friends and family, helping us build this community together.
Also, follow us on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team.
We would also like to thank attorney Chris Ingram and his dedicated team once again for researching and preparing this study for our presentation.
See you next time on Let's Talk U.S. Immigration. Bye for now.